I've never had a birthday party, elderly woman told biker. 175 Hells Angels arrived next day. The wind whispered through the pines of Clearwater Falls, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant rain. Inside her weathered cedar home, Margaret Holloway traced the cracks in her kitchen table, the same table where she'd eaten 80 years of solitary meals. 80 birthdays. 80 quiet mornings where the only greeting came from the chirping sparrows outside her window. No balloons, no cake, no "Happy birthday, Margaret." Just silence, thick and heavy as the Idaho snow. That Tuesday afternoon, a sputtering roar broke the stillness. A motorcycle coughed to a halt at the edge of her property, its rider pushing it toward her gate. He was all leather and tattoos, a mountain of a man with a beard like winter frost. Margaret's hands trembled as she opened the door. What did a biker want with an old woman like her? But Patrick Sullivan wasn't what she expected. His eyes held a gentleness that contradicted his rugged exterior. "Engine gave out, ma'am," he said, voice softer than gravel. "Mind if I sit a spell?" As he waited for a tow, they talked about the mountains, about loneliness. And then, without meaning to, Margaret whispered the truth she'd carried for decades. "I've never had a birthday party. Not one." Patrick stilled. "Never?" "My parents, they couldn't afford it. Then life happened. Work, loss. Before I knew it, decades had passed." She forced a smile. "Silly, isn't it? An 80-year-old woman wishing for cake and candles." But Patrick wasn't smiling. He was seeing his own grandmother, also alone, also forgotten. That night, hunched over his phone in a dim clubhouse, he typed a single message to the Clearwater Riders group chat. "We're throwing a birthday party for a woman who's never had one. Her name is Margaret. She turns 80 Thursday." Silence. Then, ding, 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 the replies flooded in. "Count me in. I'll bring my grill. My daughter bakes. She'll make the cake. Let's call the Coeur d'Alene chapter and Spokane. This needs to be big." 72 hours of frantic coordination followed. Calls to police captains to assure them 175 motorcycles rolling into a quiet neighborhood wasn't a raid, but a celebration. Texts flying between chapters from Oregon to Montana. A local bakery donating a 3-tier vanilla cake. A florist delivering sunflowers, Margaret's favorite. Patrick had remembered her mentioning them. Thursday dawned clear and golden. Margaret watered her geraniums, unaware that down the highway, engines were roaring to life. One by one, then by the dozen, they came. Leather vests gleaming, flags snapping in the wind. The rumble grew until it vibrated in Margaret's chest before she even heard it. She stepped onto her porch just as the first bike turned onto her street. Then another, and another. 75, 100, 175. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled, hot, disbelieving tears. These weren't menacing strangers. They were men and women with warm eyes, arms full of gifts wrapped in bright paper. They transformed her humble yard in minutes. Strings of lights between the pines, picnic tables laden with food, a banner reading "Happy Birthday, Margaret" stretched across her fence. Patrick approached, his voice thick. "We figured it's about time." What happened next would live in Margaret's heart forever. Rough hands helped her cut the cake. Grizzled bikers with skulls tattooed on their knuckles sang "Happy Birthday" off-key, their voices cracking with emotion. A woman named Rosa pressed a handmade quilt into Margaret's arms, "So you'll never feel cold again." Teenagers from the neighborhood, drawn by the spectacle, joined in. Children offered drawings. Strangers became family beneath the Idaho sun. Through it all, Margaret wept, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of being seen. For 80 years she'd believed she was invisible, but today 175 souls had ridden miles just to tell her, "Your life matters. You matter." As dusk painted the sky in violet and gold, Patrick knelt beside her. "Why did you do all this?" Margaret whispered. He looked at his brothers and sisters, the bikers sharing stories with elderly neighbors, teaching kids to polish chrome, laughing like old friends. Because kindness is the only legacy that outlasts us, he said softly, and everyone deserves to feel celebrated, especially when they've waited 80 years. The party ended as stars blinked awake, but something had shifted in Clearwater Falls. Stereotypes melted away. The scary bikers were now the community's unexpected angels, and Margaret, she slept that night with the quilt over her shoulders and a heart too full for dreams. Sometimes the most profound revolutions begin not with shouts, but with a single act of seeing someone the world has overlooked. One conversation, one broken-down motorcycle, one woman brave enough to admit a quiet longing, and 175 hearts willing to answer it. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. In a world that often feels divided, stories like Margaret remind us that compassion has no uniform and kindness can wear leather and ride a Harley. Your support helps us bring more hope-filled stories to millions around the globe. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? And has someone ever shown you unexpected kindness when you needed it most? Your story might inspire our next video. Because everyone deserves to be celebrated, especially when they've waited a lifetime. Thanks for watching.